So last week I talked about the changes potentially coming out for antibiotic prophylaxis for joint replacement. We didn't talk too much about it because I wanted to have time to digest the article that came out in JADA. But it seems like it's really pushing more towards very conservative use of antibiotics in general as a prophylaxis treatment for joint replacement. The study came out of actually North Carolina at Charlotte at the Carolinas Medical Hospital, and they showed no significant difference between those who had received dental care under antibiotic prophylaxis and those who had not for outcome of secondary infection related to joint replacement. Now, the real question will be, will our orthopedic colleagues get on board with these recommendations and start to look at the data coming out? And as we discussed in one of the posts a few weeks ago, the adverse outcomes of overprescribing antibiotics and resistant bacteria. And we're constantly trying to balance that. Not to mention, we're currently in an antibiotic shortage. And so if there are opportunities that we can be conservative in our use for antibiotics, seems like we should be looking for those ways that maybe we don't have to prescribe for our patients as frequently. So I thought that was an interesting update. But as always, we'll just have to see if our orthopedic friends will decide to get on board with that as well. The second article that I saw this week that came out was an interesting story that was in the Dear Abby column. Did you ever see that in the newspaper when you were a kid? Well, it hasn't gone away, although newspapers have kind of gone away. But her daughter still carries on the Dear Abby column. And there was a lady who wrote in about her dental hygienist, basically stating that she felt like the dental hygienist was not very clean. And she was showing up to work maybe a little bit dirty. Her hair was a little greasy. That being said,
an unhygienic hygienist.
That's correct.
Okay.
But to make it worse, her operatory was not overly hygienic either. So it really hit ahead when she opened up the upper cabinets to see all the junk and other things that were being housed inside her workspace. So the lady wrote in to Dear Abby wanting advice on what she should do to deal with her unhygienic hygienist.
Called it.
Dear Abby stated, you should confront your dentist and tell him because he probably doesn't really know. And I made me think, like, I wonder what the perception is of my hygienist or my team members by patients. Do they come across as clean and well kept? Sometimes I wonder if I come across as clean and well kept. If it's been a bustling morning and my hair is up in a bun and looking a bit disheveled. And then when you open up the upper cabinetries or other cabinets, how much do we really disclose about the cleanliness of our workspace? So not to judge the hygienist, I thought it was a really interesting opportunity for us to look at our own operatories and our own practices and our own people to remind them that patients are observant of both our cleanliness and our activities within our operatory. And maybe it's a good reminder for a little bit of a cleanup in January, a new year, new you.
You got to get the Swiffer with the extending arm.
Exactly.
With that top shelf. Yeah.
Exactly. Cavicide the crap out of that space. The last article that I wanted to mention, I thought was really interesting. Smile Direct Club has just recently received yet another lawsuit. This is not new for these comrades in the clear aligner therapy world. But what is interesting about this one is what it is highlighting about their business practices. This lawsuit came out of Washington, D.C., and the Attorney General for Washington, D.C. Not a federal operative, well, kind of, but within that district. The lawsuit is against Smile Direct Club because they require that after a certain time period under treatment, you're sent an NDA to sign that if you ever want to be eligible to receive your money back because you're dissatisfied with treatment, just sign this NDA, which states that you will not go online and leave a negative review, talk poorly about your experience, file a lawsuit against the company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the lawsuit coming out of DC states that this is likely not best practices for a company.
They don't disclose that at the beginning of the process. It's
Nope.
sometime along the way.
Sometime after treatment has started.
Interesting.
And it shuts down the consumer's opportunity to voice concerns about medical treatments, which is really critical for scientific discovery. So I think this case may have some actual legs to it. I think it could be very interesting because if that's how Smile Direct has sort of controlled some of the bad press that they have received over the last few years and poor outcomes, It's not to say anything negative about them. It's just very well documented at this point that they have had consumer issues. But if they're able to keep that under wraps through these NDAs, this may bring light to some interesting business practices that are currently being had. And I wonder if it's Smile Direct Club alone or some of these other direct-to-consumer products for clear aligner therapy as well. So we'll watch that to see what's coming. Of course, we had a giant funding bill that came out of DC late last night. If you were up at 1:30 in the morning, you saw it hit the desk. So this will be the federal funding budget for 23. We'll see what comes of that. There's a lot of meat, fat, whatever you want to call it, housed inside, and who knows what the impact will be for oral health campaign, oral health funding, and the like. So we'll keep you posted as more details come out about that. And Brian, with that, that's the news.
Great job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.